I don't know about you, but for me, making stuffed peppers has been a little challenging. They're either too hard or too soft, and I want the perfectly cooked pepper with a filling that is so flavorful that people will say, this is the best stuffed pepper I've ever eaten. Well, I accomplished it, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it using the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today we are going to make stuffed peppers. This is the quickest recipe for stuffed peppers that I've ever made. I mean, it is done in no time at all. Absolutely delicious. So I hope you give this a try. And the peppers are cooked perfectly, like I said. The first thing you want to do is get your peppers prepped. You want to do this before you start anything else, and I'll explain why in a minute or so. So you want to make sure that your peppers fit on the rack. This recipe will make 6 small peppers or 4 large peppers. I bought these peppers and they're humongous. So only 4 will fit on the rack and the filling will fill them. You might have a little bit left over. Now I've already prepped some of these, so they're already ready to go. But I just wanted to show you that you want to make sure that they will fit on the rack and lower in to the Ninja Foodi. Perfect. Okay, so we're good to go there. Now to prep the peppers, it's very simple. And I'm gonna grab this one off and I'll move this out of the way here. Go. All right, so first of all, check your pepper for stability. Some of them are really nice and they sit flat, and some of them like to roll around on you. If yours rolls around, mine really is okay, but if yours rolls around, take it over and right at this very tip, just take a little tiny bit off of the bottom. That will help it sit flat and not roll away, okay? So that's one tip. Make sure you don't go too far because you don't want any holes in the bottom of your pepper. Usually just knocking off just a little bit will have it sit nice and flat. Then we're gonna cut the top off. What I like to do is cut just about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch below where this little indent is. I just put my knife there and go straight down and get the pepper and then pull the white stuff out and the seeds, pull it all out of the pepper. You can give them a quick rinse if you want. It's no problem. That helps sometimes to loosen up and get rid of the seeds. And then for this side, now this was a little lopsided of a pepper, so I really did kind of cut it a little odd, but that's okay. It will work just fine. You can take a small paring knife to go around the stem here. But what I like to do is use a large decorating tip. It's nice and sharp, or a little biscuit cutter if you've got one small enough would work fine. And I just take it and I press it down right on the outside of the stem area. I find that it works better than a paring knife because you can really get right above that stem, so you're not wasting the pepper at all, and you're less likely to accidentally cut too much. So that's it, and then it just pops right out. So that's what I like to do. I also like to look underneath and make sure that I get all the seeds out here. So we'll clean that up. And that's all you need to do. Do that for all of your peppers and then set them aside. And now let's get ready and make this delicious filling. All right, when you go to make the filling, this is extremely important. You wanna have all of your ingredients prepped and ready to go. You're gonna need 1 pound of ground beef. I'm using 80-20, but you could use 90-10, that would be fine. You could also use ground turkey in this recipe, that would be fine. You need 1/2 cup of white rice, and that does not need to be rinsed, so don't worry about that, just 1/2 cup is fine. You need 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 1 1/4 cup of beef stock, 2 garlic cloves that I'm gonna mince up in a minute, and then the seasoning blend. The seasoning blend is 1 1/2 teaspoons of fine ground sea salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of basil, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Those are powders, not salts. If you're using salt, you would definitely want to decrease the amount of salt added to the recipe. All right, so the reason why you want to have everything ready is because you do not want this to simmer too long. What happens if you let the mixture simmer too long before you add the peppers in and put them under steam? You're gonna build steam too fast and you're not gonna cook your peppers correctly. So this is a very important part, but it's super easy and it makes it go super fast when you have everything ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and mince my 2 garlic cloves here. You could chop them up fine, or you could use a mincer like I do. Just throw those in. It's probably about, I don't know, a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half, maybe 2, depending on how big your garlic cloves are. You can use as much garlic or as little garlic as you like. It's not going to affect the recipe at all except for flavor. All right, so yeah, that looks like a good 2 teaspoons. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and get the sear saute on high and hit start. When it starts to heat up, or once it heats up, I'm going to add in the ground beef. I don't put any oil or anything in the pot, but you could if you're using a leaner type of ground meat. You could even use a mixture, you know, if you wanted to use sausage and beef, that would be absolutely delicious too. Or sausage and turkey, you know, anything you like. Just adjust your seasonings accordingly because sausage is a lot more flavorful. It's already got seasonings in there, so you don't want it to be too overpowering. But you can use whatever you want. Now, I don't drain the grease. I leave it in. I think it adds tons of flavor. But if you wanted to, you could certainly brown your ground beef and then drain the grease and then add in the rest of the ingredients. That's perfectly fine. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here and add ground beef in. It's 1 pound. And what I like to do is break it up. So as it starts to heat, and it's not really that hot yet in the pot, as it starts to heat, I like to break it up, put it on the bottom here so it quickly sautés. Does not have to be completely cooked before we go under steam because there's plenty of time for it to finish cooking as it cooks the rice. However, I do like to get it about 50 to 75% cooked. I found that that works the best. So as soon as it starts to brown up, then we'll add the other ingredients, deglaze the pot, get our peppers in, and go under steam. I bet you were asking, what about onion? I almost forgot it. Yes, 1 onion. I'm using a sweet onion. You can use any onion you want, diced in about a 1/4 inch dice. Perfect. Throw that into the pot. Go ahead and get in the garlic. Your seasoning blend. And mix everything around. And take the ground beef until it's about 75% cooked. Between 50 and 75 is fine. Make sure it's broken up into small pieces. Otherwise, under steam, you'll end up having large chunks of ground beef, and you don't want that. So you want to definitely chop it up. That's the same with pressure cooking as well. Make sure any ground meat is chopped to the size you want to serve it because it's not going to break up during the pressure cook time. Okay, in the very beginning of the video, I mentioned using the Ninja Foodi 6.5 quart. And I mentioned that specifically because this is a recipe designed for the Ninja Foodi. Whether you have the 6.5 quart or the 8 quart, it's gonna be fine. There might be a tiny bit of time adjustments that I will go over in the written recipe post if you have the 8 quart. But the steam function is different on the Ninja Foodi than it is on many other models of pressure cookers, like the Instant Pots. I think the Instant Pot has 1 or 2 models out that has a true steaming function, which means the vent is open. It is not sealed. And that is very important in this recipe because of the liquid amounts that we're using. We need that evaporation. We want the vent to be open and let that steam out. And that is going to make the filling absolutely perfect and make our peppers cook perfectly so they're not too hard or too soft. All right, it looks like we are pretty well there, so we're ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in the rice. 1/2 cup of white rice. I don't rinse it, I don't worry about that. The Worcestershire sauce and the balsamic vinegar. Now, if you're not a fan of either, which I think you should try it at least once, but you don't like, especially the balsamic, because that's kind of an interesting, different ingredient here. If you don't like it, make sure you add equal amounts of beef stock. So if you omit the 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, add 2 more tablespoons of beef stock. Very important so that your liquid ratios are correct. All right, we're gonna go ahead and deglaze with the beef stock. Scrape around the bottom and don't dilly-dally here. This is where it gets really important. We're still on that high sear saute. If you were gonna take a few minutes, turn the Foodi off, okay? You don't want this to build a ton of heat right now because you don't want it to go under steam too fast. I found that out the hard way. I ended up with totally raw peppers because I dilly-dallied and let this start to boil too much. All right, that's it. Now we throw our peppers in on top. But to do that, turn them upside down. The reason being is that if you keep them upright, they're gonna fill up with the water and it just becomes a little bit more cumbersome afterwards. So what I do is just sort of stack it on here, put those pepper tops. You don't have to use the pepper tops either if you don't want to. That's totally up to you. The other thing I'll mention really quick is you can add in some canned tomatoes if you want to in the filling. I have done that before, but to be honest, I really enjoyed the flavor without the chunks of tomatoes. And instead, at the end, I'll add in some homemade marinara, and it was, oh my gosh, so delicious. All right, now we're gonna put the pressure lid on. Turn the Ninja Foodi back on if it's off. So we're gonna select the steam function and we wanna go down to 5 minutes. Hit start. Make sure your valve on the back is to the vent position, okay? Very, very important. So as the pot heats up, as the mixture starts boiling, we're cooking the rice, we're gonna build the steam, and your pin might pop up. Even though your vent's open, your pin might pop up. That's perfectly fine, don't worry about that. After the 5 minutes is up, just let the pin go down and then open up the pot immediately. You don't want these peppers to sit in here for any length of time or they're not going to steam correctly. All right, so our 5-minute steam time is up. You can see there's a lot of steam, or here, a lot of steam coming out. Our pin is up in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the Ninja Foodi off and wait for that pin to drop. You can't open the lid right now anyway, it's locked in because that pin is up. So just wait for it to go down naturally. Don't force it down or anything. All right, the pin just dropped down. That means we can open up the lid, and we're gonna go ahead and do that right away because all that steam that's in there will overcook the peppers if you leave the lid on too long. All right, now we can just grab the whole rack out. Be careful when you go over this because it is very steamy. So just pull the whole rack out, and the peppers look like they're cooked well. And then we wanna look at our mixture here, and it looks really good. The rice is completely cooked. There's very, very little liquid left, if any. If you had more liquid left than you wanted, like let's say you had a couple of tablespoons and you wanted to burn that off, you can do that by using the sear saute on the low setting, and make sure you stir frequently so you don't burn your rice. All right, whoops, we got a runaway. I don't want to touch that with my hands. It'll be a little hot. Just grab that there. Oh, these are perfectly cooked. So excited about this. So easy to make. Now, to this mixture, I add 1 cup of marinara sauce or your favorite spaghetti sauce. Either one's fine. I'm using my homemade marinara sauce, and I will link to that recipe in the video description and right up there for you guys. Now, I let my marinara sit out for about a half an hour while I was making the recipe because you don't want to add it in when it's completely cold or you're going to chill your ingredients, and we're not going to do a long bake on these peppers, so you want it to be at least room temperature, or you can even warm it up. All right, so let that sit while we get our peppers turned over and the filling stuffed in them. Oh, these are perfect, 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 perfect. Flip them over. So do that for all of the peppers there. Now, if you wanted to make this ahead of time, so you wanted to get to this point, but you're not gonna bake them and serve them right away, then what you wanna do is stick these in ice water to stop the cooking process. And then you can store them in the refrigerator, and when you want to fill them and bake them, you can do that. Perfectly fine. All right, now let's get them filled. So I just spoon out the mixture. So then what I do is I top with a cheese blend. This is mozzarella and then an Italian blend, but you could use any kind of cheese you want. You could use cheddar, Gouda, anything you want. So I put the cheese on top here. Now lift this into Ninja Foodi again. And then what I like to do is, if I have a little extra, I like to pour a little bit around the peppers to kind of drip down the side and bake on. It kind of gives that, you know, like slow cooked pepper in the oven, you know, that usually takes hours and hours and hours. It gives me that feeling, but totally optional. Now we go under the broil function. So just go ahead and turn the Ninja Foodi on, hit broil and hit start. It'll default to 10 minutes. It may not take that long. Check it every 2 to 3 minutes. And when your cheese is nice and melted and your peppers look like you want them to, you're ready to serve them. All right, so it's been about 4 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a peek here. And it's looking good, but it's not quite done at all. And then I saw I have a little extra cheese. So I figured I'll just kind of lightly put that over the top too. I've even used sliced provolone and laid it over the entire pepper and not worried about putting on the pepper top. So, you know, you can do this any which way you want. We're still not quite ready, so let's keep on going. All right, so it's been 7 minutes. Let's take a peek. That's looking really good. So the cheese is browned up some. It looks really good. So I'm gonna stop here and pull them out. Be careful when you do that. The rack is very hot. And there we go. And our stuffed peppers are done. Amazing, huh? Quick, easy, perfectly cooked. They're not too mushy. They're not too hard. Oh my gosh, I love doing this recipe. Every single time I'm pleased with it. All right, so let them cool off just a little bit, and then I will get one on my plate and give it a taste. All right, looks delicious. Huge. One of these is enough for 2 people, really. All right, to get them off the rack, I have like this little spoon that I like to use, or you could use a spatula to get underneath of there and get them off. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this in half. All bets are off at this point because it's going to be messy once you cut them in half. That wasn't too bad. All right, there we go, our stuffed peppers. All right, let's go ahead and take a bite. Now for me, if a pepper is perfectly cooked for stuffed peppers, you don't need a knife. Let's see how I'm gonna put this back on the tray here, pick it up, and put that back on there. Let's see, can I cut it? Yes, I can cut it with a fork, but it is not falling apart. Perfect texture. Perfect texture. That filling is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So now remember, everybody likes their peppers differently. If you like yours a little bit firmer, then steam for less time. If you like them a little softer, steam longer. If you steam the 5 minutes and they're not done yet, steam a little bit longer, okay? So just make adjustments as you need to get the results that you want. If your rice mixture for some reason didn't absorb all the liquid and your rice is a little hard, use the sear saute to finish cooking it up. So you can definitely adjust things so that your stuffed peppers are perfect for you. As always, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.